What's going on, guys? We are live and we have a great interview for you today. And I titled it How to Get Results on Keto. And we are interviewing Keto in Chaos. Her name is Tammy. And I actually didn't know this. I knew she had a channel. I've been watching it on and off for a couple of years. Her channel on YouTube is Keto in the Chaos. And I didn't realize what an incredible weight loss transformation she's had over the past 5 years, as you can see on the thumbnail for this video. So we're going to get to the bottom of this. Hopefully we can share some tips and tricks with you guys. How's it going, Tammy?
It's going great, Matt.
Yeah, thanks so much for joining us. And before we started here, I didn't realize, but so many people have all these like limiting beliefs and stuff. And your YouTube channel is great, and you do it on your phone, right?
I do pretty much everything on my phone. Yep.
Yeah, and the video quality and everything looks great. I have all this technology here, and I barely tell a difference between your video quality and mine.
Well, that's
But
good because I was super nervous about that.
yeah, so I guess just take us. I'm going to share real quickly here your transformation pictures. And as you
All
guys
right.
can see, I think the first one is from around 2015, and the more recent one is probably from 2020 this year.
Yeah, the most recent one was taken just last Sunday.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, and
So,
really amazing transformation. And there's a lot that goes into this long-term weight loss that I think a lot of people don't know. So we're going to cover some of that. But I guess first off, can you just share a little bit of your story, your background? Was it like a lot of trial and error before you found keto, or did you find it pretty quickly and then just immediately had good results?
oh, that's a really good question. Basically, I've been overweight my whole life. I started being overweight probably age 10. I think that's pretty normal for people who are going to struggle around age 10 when the hormones kick in. I had kids really young. I was about 200 pounds when I got married, 225 when I got pregnant with my first child. And then for 22 years, I was basically pregnant and or breastfeeding at the same time. So I couldn't really like focus on myself. It was more about just dealing with everything that was going on. I have a lot of kids and I didn't really have time to take care of myself. So even though I had a couple of bouts of dieting here and there, for the most part, I didn't really kill my metabolism, which is a blessing now that I've learned a lot about weight loss. The fact that I wasn't on the yo-yo wagon all the time is probably really, really great. I did have some success losing some weight after I think my sixth child, and I was doing a shake diet. But here's the clincher, and this is why I'm against MLM companies and that kind of thing, is that the coach that I was with only told me this much information, enough information that I wouldn't eat too many carbs and that I would come back every week and I would buy his shakes and, have him weigh and measure me.
Yeah.
But then he wouldn't tell me. I knew nothing about ketosis. I didn't know what the heck. He told me to supplement sodium, but thank goodness. But I didn't realize why, and I didn't know anything about it. So, of course, get pregnant again, had a miscarriage, couple of miscarriages, couple more babies, and I ballooned back up because I went back to my regular eating habits and I think after I had my youngest, I was over 400 pounds, though I never got on the scale. I ended up in the hospital after I had him, horribly sick. I almost died from pleurisy. It was awful. I was huge. I can't even fathom what it must have looked like to people because nobody took a picture and it's just impossible to imagine. So after he was about a year and I was basically getting almost to the point of weaning him, I wasn't quite done breastfeeding when I started keto, and it was purely by accident. It was a last ditch effort. I just started eating protein and low carb veggies just because I thought that would work. I was trying to avoid weight loss surgery.
Mm-hmm.
And a friend asked me what I was doing to lose weight because I lost like 9 pounds the first week. And I told her and she goes, "Oh, you're doing keto." And it almost makes me cry because it was just that moment in my desperation, this one friend sharing this one little tidbit of information that I'd never heard. How had I never heard of it? Like, it still seems impossible. And it led me down the rabbit hole of amazing transformation. And within about 8 months, I'd lost 100 pounds. And I was teaching people already. I was on Facebook groups, type all the time. And I finally got to the point where I was like tired of typing and decided it would be easier to tell people what I was doing if I made a video, and I thought, well, where do you put videos? And I'm like, okay, YouTube, I guess. I had no idea what I was getting into.
Yeah.
And here we are.
Yeah.
So I guess it's been 3 years I've been on YouTube.
Okay. And you found keto in like 2015?
2017, actually. It was January 1st, 2017. So it's been 4 years.
So I guess that was like the start of maybe the beginning of the popularity, right? Because I feel like when we started our channel, it was 2016, and there was no real like momentum or it becoming super popular or anything. It wasn't like we were like jumping on a trend really, as much as a little bit later on, like maybe 2 years later was when it got to be super popular. But yeah, if you lose 90 pounds in 8 months, you said?
100 pounds.
100 pounds. You must be getting a lot of questions. How are you doing this? Everyone wants the secrets. So to distill it to just, I guess, what you would tell those people when they're like, how are you losing the weight? What's the simple message that you would tell them?
Oh my gosh, it's not very simple, but I have 7 steps. Number 1, find your why. Number 2, just start. Number 3, get into ketosis. Number 4, figure out electrolytes. Number 5, track your food. Number 6 is the key. Face your demons. And number 7, persevere.
Okay, number 1, what's your why?
Number 1, why? What's the point? Like,
so here's maybe what's a bad why. I think a lot of people have this why, which is they want to look good. They want to look better. So that's kind of weak, right?
Yes.
Because
my
you learn
why
most
was a bad
people,
why.
Was that your why? You want to
my
look better?
why was a bad why. No, the bad why as in fear.
Okay.
I was afraid. I thought I was going to die.
That's actually a really compelling why. Because there's a lot of people that they want to do it. They want to look better. They want, to maybe get a better boyfriend, girlfriend, or whatever.
Yeah.
And better, I guess, is theoretical. But and then when they have like some kind of brush with like, oh, you're pre-diabetic or like something like that is what is a more compelling why, and it gets them to finally stick to things.
Exactly. I mean, I was to the point where I would take a bath and I would be afraid that I might die or not be able to get out of the tub, and that my kids would find me that way. And that's how they'd remember me.
Mm-hmm. And then
those are some pretty compelling whys.
Yeah. And then step 2 is what?
Step 2, just start. Stop researching. Stop researching.
Yeah, this is definitely like an over-researched diet. Everyone wants to know. And what I found is the over-researching is, what is it? I guess it's like you not wanting to invest time. You want like the perfect answer from step 1, so you don't have
magic pill.
You don't have to figure anything out for yourself. Yeah. So
the magic pill.
Yeah, a lot of people asking questions about, even with this, because at the start of the year we're doing for 30 days under 20 net carbs a challenge, just to like get people rolling a little bit.
Yes,
and
that's a good challenge.
It was just to reduce it down to like a very simple thing, 30 days under 20 net carbs. It's basically one thing you have to do. And the questions are still like, what breaks a fast? Very common question. It's just all the stuff that doesn't really matter too much, when most of that stuff will follow if you just do the big thing,
Yep. You're right. That's what I meant about number 3 is get into ketosis under 20 net carbs. And I have some rules about that. Don't test. Mm-hmm. No ketone testing. Just don't even waste your money. Don't waste your time chasing ketones. It's way too much stress. There's so many variables going into whether or not it's going to show a positive number, a high number, low number. And that was one thing that I was taught early on that I'm so grateful for, is because I didn't spend my whole life chasing ketones, spending money on ketone strips, peeing on sticks. Well, I've peed on a lot of sticks, but not those kind. Had a lot of babies, but yeah. So basically just eat 20 net or less.
Yeah.
That's it.
That's really that simple. Yeah, I think the pea strips definitely confuse people.
Oh, yeah.
And this is like something I've realized is we like these numbers that tell us that we're doing it right rather than just our intuition. So like peeing on a strip, it's the perception of like, you're doing it right, you're doing it wrong. The scale is a big one. The scale can lie to you for extended periods of time. Yeah. But we need like these external factors that affirm what we're doing, because we don't trust ourselves. We don't trust that like the diet's working for us. We feel better. So that's definitely a hurdle to get over.
Well, and there's other symptoms of ketosis or signs that you're in ketosis that you can use as your barometer to determine whether or not you are actually succeeding in it working, right? So you're going to have lack of appetite, which is the main one of why it works for weight loss. You're going to have odd smelling breath or taste in your mouth. You might have some interesting BO. You might have a keto rash, but that one's pretty rare. you will pee a lot, right? And that's the stressful one. And that's why I think people fail on keto a lot, is because they aren't prepared for the loss of electrolytes, which is why number 4 is electrolytes. Because I find people will start doing the 20 net and they can handle that for about a week. And then the second week, sometimes in the second week, they are just going to right up against the electrolytes wall and crash.
Yeah,
I've had so many people I've helped. Yeah, they call me and they're like, I'm dying. This diet is crap. You know, like they literally feel like they're dying. And I'm like, my sister did that to me. She hates when I tell that story, so I probably shouldn't. But she called me from Walmart and I was like, walk to the salt aisle, open a pack of salt, put some in your hand, and eat it right now. She called me back in 10 minutes. She's like, it's a miracle. And I'm like, right? Yeah. It is a miracle. So you didn't listen to me well enough.
Yeah. Walk me through the electrolyte protocol for beginners.
So it's super easy. You just need 5,000 milligrams of sodium. So however you choose to get it, there's lots of different ways. I take Soleil water, which is pretty intense. That's about 1,400 milligrams in a shot of Soleil water. And I have a video on my channel of how you make that, or you can just Google it. There's tons of articles, but you can swallow salt rocks.
Is Soleil water, you dissolve salt in water?
Yeah, until it can't absorb it anymore. It's like chemistry.
Okay, and then what is
clear water can only hold so much.
Yeah, then what is the ratio of water to sodium in the end?
It really doesn't matter. Err on the side of more salt than less. You need to have some in the bottom after you've made it. So I always say like 1/4 to 1/3 of your jar of salt, and then fill it up with water.
Then what's the serving you take?
Well, I personally take a lot, and that's actually part of the reason why I'm kind of edging into the higher carbs, because I've really struggled with the electrolytes. But I take about a tablespoon at a time, sometimes 2, and I take that 4 to 8 times a day.
Do we know how much sodium is in a tablespoon of fully dissolved water?
Yes, it is 1434 milligrams of sodium.
Okay.
It's a lot.
Per tablespoon.
So really, you only need about 4 to hit that 5,000 threshold.
Yeah.
So that's what I tell people to shoot for, is 4 tablespoons a day. You can also measure out like pink Himalayan salt in a baggie and swallow it light with water, like a pill. That's actually the easiest way for people who are beginning that don't like to eat salt. Me, I actually used to pour it in my hand, not just the powdered salt, and I would eat it like that. And people always asked me about that. And it got really awkward because I was doing it like at places where people would see me and they were like, are you eating salt? And I'm like, yeah, totally. And my friend's like eating ice cream. And she's like, why are you eating salt? And I said, because I'm going to lose 100 pounds by September. That's what I would say the whole time. And she was like, and she's like, yeah, me too. And I'm like, not eating the ice cream, you're not.
Yeah.
Me over here with my salt and you with the ice cream. Let's see who was successful.
Yeah, you get some amount of sodium through food too. I think a normal day, a standard American diet, I think a normal day is like 2,000 milligrams or something like that. Keto, I think, is usually a little less, like maybe 1,500 per day.
Yeah, and I don't actually count the food salts. So that 5,000, that is always on top of whatever I'm eating in my food. Dr. Finney says 5,000 minimum. And so that's kind of what I go by. But I have found, especially if you're doing keto kind of the way that I teach it, which is a little different than the way most people do it, we tend to need more. It seems like we just need more. And I always tell people, just take how much you need to feel good. Well, and if you have diarrhea in 20 minutes, you took too much at once. Don't take it all at once.
Yeah, I find sodium to kind of be similar to water in that when your body's sort of in tune, like when you're on a standard American diet, you can't really do this, but it's self-regulating in a sense that salt tastes too salty when you've had enough salt, and it tastes really good when you haven't had enough salt. Kind of the same with water. Like sometimes when you're really hydrated, you like the thought of drinking water is not appetizing at all. But when you're super thirsty, it's very quenching and it's like the only thing you need. So you can kind of regulate it in that way too.
For sure.
And then people are also asking about potassium and magnesium.
At first I didn't recommend potassium supplements, but I found that I ended up needing them because I couldn't hit the numbers that you're supposed to get with just food because I don't eat a lot of veg. So the recommended that the group that taught me that I can't mention, recommends is 1,000 to 3,500. I find 2,000 to be my ideal. And so I actually shoot also no salt in the morning. I mix it with a tiny bit of water, about 2 to 4 grams, depending on what I feel like I need. And I mix it with Mio water enhancer, 1 squirt and some water, and I just shoot it. And it's disgusting. But I do that. I just barely started doing that last year, though. I didn't have to do that as much in the beginning, but I find that I had really, over time, it was harder. The electrolyte thing is just like was killing me, and it was a big problem, which is too bad. I don't know if it's because of the weight loss or what, but yeah. I also take magnesium too. So people are asking, I take magnesium glycinate. I think you take the same.
Yeah.
300 to 700 milligrams is what I recommend to people. I personally take about 450 to 675, depending on how I'm feeling. Like I usually determine that based on if I'm having any constipation issues or muscle cramps, things like that. I'll take a little more, but I take the base dose of 450.
Yeah. Potassium is something that I guess will fluctuate because the potassium in people's diets really varies a lot.
Yeah.
So like, I think a pound of red meat is usually like maybe a gram of potassium, and you get it, most of it from vegetables. So some people do a low vegetable diet, some people do high vegetable. So supplementing could make sense. I think you got to be a little careful with supplementing tons of potassium in like a big dose at once. Yeah. But
you do need to be careful. That's why I didn't recommend it. And because you can overdo potassium where you're not as likely to overdo sodium.
Yeah, they do make potassium supplements with up to 1,000 milligrams. So like anything less than that to me seems reasonable in like a single dose. And then on to step 5, which was that one?
The one everyone hates. Track your
food.
Track
your food. Yeah.
A lot of people want to be like Dr. Westman and just eat all the protein and keep those limited fats or whatever that he teaches. That's way more confusing to me than using a tracker just to track my food. I do fly in the face of most keto people out there when I say that protein is king. So I definitely follow the anabolic bodybuilder types. I follow BioLane, Greg Doucette, Colin DeWay for a lot of that information. But Dr. Finney himself does recommend a certain level of protein. It's a little lower than what I usually recommend now based on stuff I've studied with like BioLane and all those guys. But I'm just a mom. So I always tell people, literally take everything I say with a grain of salt because I'm just reading and studying and I'm telling people what I've learned. And that's all I can do because I don't have any like PhD. I've literally been parenting my whole life. So I am good at teaching. I homeschool my kids. So there's my reason that I am good at teaching, probably because I've spent a lot of time doing that.
Yeah, we should talk about that a little bit at the end.
We can talk kids at the end.
Yeah. Are these things that you've like changed your mind on over time or you've sort of like honed in on? Like what was it like at the start relative to now?
Luckily, at the start, the group that I joined on Facebook was a keto gains kind of group, and they focused on protein. So I was taught that way from the beginning. I didn't know anything about high-fat keto at all. So I got lucky because I fell into the weight loss group, right? Because if you want to lose weight, it's about calorie deficit and it's about satiety. And I didn't even understand calories at the time. I just followed the macros they gave in the group. And I lost weight. And so that's kind of how I run my Facebook group. I have a bargain basement calories, bargain basement minimum protein kind of goal that I give people and let them go from there. My current goal for myself is my body weight in protein. During weight loss, I only did 120, which was average low recommended by Dr. Finney for my height, which is 5'7". So anywhere between 120 and 170 makes me happy. If I can crest and go above 170, I really love that, especially right now because I am eating more calories and trying to gain some lean mass, build up some muscle in preparation for a final cut. So I'm not quite to where I want to be, probably about at least 10 pounds away. And so I want to get my metabolism burning really well and get my lean mass really high so I don't have to cut so severely when I do it, or I can cut severely for a short time to achieve my goal. So that's kind of where I'm at with protein right now. I definitely support Ted Naiman and his, protein energy or whatever diet, though it's way too confusing for my brain.
Yeah,
But the
yeah.
basics of it are
He
kind of what
does
I
sort
do.
of complicate it a little bit now that I'm thinking about it. Yeah, we
Yeah,
had him on a couple months ago. He's really good. So you're saying a gram of
a
protein
gram
per pound of body weight. You're like
or
close
lean mass, because
lean
like
mass.
when
Yeah,
you're 400 pounds, you're not going to eat 400 grams of protein.
that's what I was gonna say. Yeah, so someone who has a lot of weight to lose, you might want to use like goal weight or lean mass.
Yeah,
Um,
I'd say goal weight is probably a better one than lean. My lean mass on DEXA has always been about 115. I think the highest it's ever been is 124. It's a DEXA scan. I don't
mhm.
know if anybody knows what that is, but so I was eating a basically what my lean mass was, and I kind of wish I'd done a little higher just because it is so much more satiating to have that
Yeah,
food bulk, especially where you're coming into this like me as an overeater, disordered eater, maybe possibly food addict. Not quite. I don't know that I was addicted because it was pretty hard. It was pretty easy for me to break that.
yeah,
Probably easier than some people. So, there's that. But I was coming into it from a non-healthy place. I think even more satiety would have been nice, though keto itself, it literally felt like putting a blanket on my hunger.
mhm.
It was like taking, like some Tums, or when you have heartburn and it just goes. I was in
Yeah,
this crazed state of starving at almost 400 pounds. And I went to,
yeah,
I'm not hungry at all. I can totally plan my food and decide what I want to eat in like
yeah,
less than 2 weeks. It was
yeah,
crazy awesome. And that's
yeah,
why
for
I
sure.
teach it, because it is so helpful for people that feel out of control to get them to a place where they can actually even think about calories. Because I
Yeah,
could, there's
that's
no way.
That's definitely a key element. That's kind of the origin of the challenge. Is once you do 30 days under 20 net carbs, you're back in control a little bit. You
Yeah.
can actually make decisions. You're not just on autopilot being controlled by like your primal mind that's just telling you to eat everything. So it makes things a little bit easier. And then you said number 6 is a key step, and that is
That's
demons or
face your
something.
demons. And
Face your
I
demons.
have done several 1 hour chats on this subject. Um, let's see. I've got it marked in here somewhere if I can just do it. I don't know. But
Yeah.
basically, it's having your Atreyu moment. I always say, you walk up to the mirror like in Never Ending Story. Maybe you're too young for Never Ending Story. I don't know. But
I've never seen it.
oh, you're breaking my heart right now. You got to go see it. So
Okay.
the young boy, Atreyu, he's trying to see the oracle to ask the question about how he's supposed to save the world, right? And he comes up to this beautiful mirror, and the only thing he sees is himself. And he has, and it shows people seeing themselves and running away screaming and
Hmm.
being killed. Like literally, they cannot face that mirror. And Atreyu sees himself, accepts himself for who he is, and walks through the mirror, thus allowing him access to the famed oracle to save the world, right? So
Yeah.
I always talk about having your Atreyu moment is when you really look at the inside of you and evaluate, how did I get here? What
Hmm.
did I do to become fat? Why am I overeating? What are my stressors? What are my triggers? And really face it, because I'll tell you what, if you're in this to lose 10, 15 pounds, no big deal. You're probably fine this way. You're not going to have an issue. You can go on keto, do a cut really quick and go back to your life and whatever you can do, a cut phase and a bulk phase, like, all these people that on the YouTubes do.
Yeah.
But if you're like me and you are just literally out of control and can't stop eating, you have to evaluate why. And that's the work. So the
Yeah.
diet helps you get started and it will help you lose some weight. But unless you face your demons and figure out other ways, healthy ways to handle the stresses in your life, we saw this in 2020. Either 2020 make or break you when it comes to diet. We have people who were doing really, really well, and 2020 hit and they just threw it all out the window and was like, F it, I'm out, and just ate everything and gained all the weight. Or then you have people like me who went, oh, I'm home all the time. This is so much easier for meal planning. I'm totally like going to go on a cut and lose 24 pounds in the summer.
Yeah.
Right? Like, it depends on if you have dealt with your demons or not, whether or not you're just going to revert to bad behavior or disordered eating behavior when you face reality, which is something is always going to trigger you. There's always going to be a birthday. There's freaking Super Bowl coming up. People rarely make it past the Super Bowl, right? Because
Yeah.
they are real strong in the beginning of the year and they get to Super Bowl and they're like, I'm eating everything. And then they can't stop eating. Whereas if they had just said, okay, Super Bowl's coming up, it's time for a refeed. I'm going to go ahead and have a diet break on the Super Bowl. And this is my plan. I'm going to eat this and this and this. I'm going to track it. And it's going to be 2,200 calories or 2,500 calories. And I'm going to eat that for 2 days in a row. And then I'm going to go back to my cutting macros. And like, it takes a lot to get to that place where you can do that. But the work that has to be done is in your heart and in your head. If you don't do that work, you're never going to get to the place where cutting macros are a thing. You can't even think about that stuff because you fall off the wagon so often you can't figure that out.
Yeah.
So yeah, gotta face your demons. I got lots of videos on it.
Okay, I need to watch some of these. I like the idea of, if you know you have like this problem point coming up, like the Super Bowl, you just make it part of your plan. You bend a little bit. And even if you completely break, the idea that you work it into your plan as a break from your diet, it's totally different than going in thinking you're still on your diet and then having a momentary lapse, and then, just because then you wake up the next morning and it's like, what happened? Whereas if you plan
because you will go up on the scale, right?
Yeah.
You will. Doesn't matter what you ate. Anything out of the ordinary will make you go up on the scale. That's why you were right. The scale is an imposter. You cannot always trust those numbers, even on the daily basis, especially if you're a woman and you have hormonal fluctuations of any kind. I have been on the scale roller coaster so long. It's just it doesn't even bother me anymore. I was up 5 pounds this morning and I was just like, whatevs, don't care. Because
do you weigh yourself every day?
I've done it so many times. Like, it's happened so many times.
Do you weigh yourself every day?
I do, but I'm a data girl. You can see this is my little notebook here. Everybody's seen my data. This is my reverse diet. Okay.
We got to digitize you.
Well, I am digital too. So okay. I do keep it all digital as well as writing it down. There's just something really tangible about writing it down and having it here to flip through to see my progress. But this is my reverse diet, which I've been following Colin DeWay's approach to reversing, which is basically getting your calories up as high as you can, right? To see how many calories you could burn. It's like, this is my new scientific experiment I'm doing on myself now that I'm kind of like, I got weight loss down, right? I know how to do it. I can replicate it. I can do it in a second, in a heartbeat. Now I want to figure out, where's my ideal maintenance, and can I make that a little higher, right? Because who doesn't want to eat more food?
Yeah.
So that's what I've been doing for 20 weeks.
Let's get to that in a second, because we still got number 7, which is...
Yeah, okay. Number 7 is persevere.
Okay.
One foot in front of the other. Have patience. And the scale comes into play. If the scale's bothering you, don't use it as a thing. There's a channel, this little dinky channel. I hate to even just mention it, but it's called Lynn Venture, where her husband films her. She's not a keto person or anything. Her husband films her weight every day, so she doesn't see it. And then he edits the video, and she just does like this talk over where the weight just goes down, and she has no idea how much she's losing. That is brilliant.
That's
Can I just
really
say,
cool. Wow.
Why the heck didn't I do that? Like, I just want to say, like, girl, you are brilliant, because you don't see it. You can only judge based on non-scale pictures, right? And the scale cannot mess with your head. When it goes up, you're not going to binge because it went up, and you're not going to say, screw it. It's brilliant. But I am a scale person. I weigh every day, and I take my median weight for the week, use that to determine, because I'm in a reverse, what I'm going to do with my calories the next week. You can do that dieting as well, though. So you can take your mid weight, you add all your weight set for the week, and whatever your average is, you can compare that to last week. And if you lost weight, you can keep your calories where they are. And if you gained weight, you can lower them. Or if you stayed the same, you can choose if you're going to lower them. You can do it the other way. I wish I would have known all this stuff at the beginning, but I just really needed to get 100 pounds off. And the best way to do that was freaking bargain basement calories. I think my calories were 1286. 1286. If you added up my macros perfectly, which was 120 grams of protein, 78 grams of fat, and 21 or fewer net carbs. Those were my original cutting macros from the very beginning. I think it was 1286 calories, which, if I'd known anything about calories, would have scared the crap out of me. So maybe it's better that I didn't. And because I was obese, it didn't damage my metabolism as much. And I was able to do 18 months straight. I didn't even have like hardly a diet break. I had like 1 or 2 here and there because I didn't know about them. I was 1 foot in front of the other every single day. Just go, 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 keep going. And if you fall off the wagon or jump or choose to eat off plan, which is what I always say, it's not a cheat, it's a choice. Don't beat yourself up. Who cares? Make your next meal keto, move on, do what you got to do.
Yeah. So, I mean, a lot of people are going to hit plateaus, and that's kind of discouraging. But yeah, so I guess that's a really common question is like, I've hit a plateau. What do I do? And I'm sure over the course of your weight loss, there was some periods of time where it wasn't super easy. So what did you do? I guess that's kind of this step, persevering, right?
Persevering, but also evaluating how long have you been in a calorie deficit? How much do you have to lose? Could you have really dieted down your metabolism and you need a diet break for a while and get your metabolism back up? Or do you need to cut calories even more? Can you cut calories even more? To cut calories with keto, it's fairly simple. You can even keep your calories the same and burn a little bit more body fat by raising your protein and lowering your dietary fat. And I know people do not want to lower their dietary fat. I get yelled at all the time about it. But I'll tell you what, if you want to burn your body fat, you must consume less dietary fat. Eating fat does not make you lose weight. Eating fat can help you be in ketosis, and it can make you create ketones, and you can have plenty of extra ketones you don't actually need floating around in your body. But if you cut your fats back, you will burn body fat for those ketones. And yes, that's why I say don't test, because your ketones will be lower on the meter and people get freaked. But the reason they're lower is because your body only makes what it needs. Like, duh. It's like not rocket science, guys.
Yeah, my whole thing
raising
is
protein, lowering fats.
Yeah, my whole thing is you can figure this out after you're doing the diet for some period of time. This is something I think it's sort of person specific. So for me, not really trying to lose weight, I'd say eating more protein makes you fuller, and it's easier to eat less calories doing more protein, which for weight loss, that obviously has its benefits. For me, I do notice just like a little bit less energy overall when I'm doing higher protein, especially if it's like, a consciously high protein, if I'm like trying to test something for a YouTube video. Right. So I like to do the classic keto recommendation, basically, which is 0.8 grams per pound of lean body mass, which for me comes out to about 70% of calories from fat. I think you're talking, what I hear from you is like closer to 60% calories from fat.
60% from fat and about 30 something from protein. And then it's like whatever's left from carbs. Carbs tend to be a little higher on that ratio. I think it's like 6 or something like that then. Okay.
And then I want to jump into this sort of diet break you're doing, reverse diet. And I want to share, which is this. I always reference this, and I have it on screen right now. It's the Biggest Loser study. And I'll just show you guys what happens when you diet for a long period of time. But it's not just dieting. It's severe calorie deficit with like a low fat diet, just like, what they do on The Biggest Loser, basically. They eat an extreme calorie deficit. They exercise like 6 hours a day, and they just do it very abruptly. So just to show you this chart here, this is the 6-year follow-up from The Biggest Loser. This is their age and weight to start. This is what they were at the end of competition. So you can see on average they lost about 60 kilograms. And then follow up at 6 years, they were back up 40 kilograms. So they still had about a 20 kilogram weight loss, but they're up 40 kilograms from their low point at the end of competition. And here is their RMR, resting metabolic rate. And here is their total energy expenditure. So that's, their metabolism, basically. The RMR, you can see at the follow-up, is very low. It has not raised very much. They've gained 40 pounds back, and their RMR is actually lower than when they left the competition. So they're almost back to their original weight. They're still down a good bit, but their metabolism is significantly decreased from their pre-contest resting metabolic rate. So that's why you would do something like a reverse diet or just a diet break. So kind of talk to us. Yeah, kind of talk to us about what you're doing, because you've
I'm so glad you brought up that study, because that's actually the reason why I don't advocate for long-term fasting, and why Dr. Finney says to be super careful with super long fasts, extended fasts. Because of that study, they're worried that there could be permanent metabolic damage, like your metabolism may never recover. And so obviously my metabolism is awesome. I actually had my RMR tested right after my cut in the summer. So I was eating less than 1,300 calories and had been so for about 12 to 13 weeks when I went in and had my RMR tested with the KORR breathing test. And I tested at high. I tested at 1627 for my RMR, even after losing all of this weight. And because I've taken diet breaks as I went. Now, with The Biggest Loser, they were significantly obese. And so you would think that because of that, they wouldn't have had as much damage to their metabolism. But it just goes to show it's just that long term, even if you're obese, is really risky. So be careful. Just be really, really careful. I think when you're obese, you can have a little bit more wiggle room with calories. You can go really, really low. You're not going to feel as miserable because your body has a lot of body fat to pull from, especially doing keto when you're fat adapted. Your body's going to pull from that store really, really well. I hit my wall at about 18 months in, right when I got into Wonderland. There was something about going into out of the 200s that made my body go, whoa, 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 whoa. No, you're doing something wrong here. And I just felt like I needed a break. I didn't know anything about diet breaks. Literally knew nothing about it. Nothing at all. I just did it on my own. So I did like through the fall, I did like lazy keto and ate whatever I felt like eating. I still continued to lose weight. So obviously I was still eating in a deficit. I didn't think I was, but I was. And then I did another cut in January. And then I did another lazy keto in May. And I just kind of kept doing that cycle where I would cut in the summer, and then I would cut in January, and then the rest of the time I would eat lazy keto. Well, last fall, I tried to do what you're talking about, the 70% fat, and I wanted to keep my protein at that lower level, that 120, and I'll tell you what, I gained 10 pounds in 3 months because I could not find that satiety with fats. I couldn't stop eating them. I was eating well over 3,000 calories, and I went from eating bargain basement 1,300 to 3,000 overnight, which you cannot do that either, which is why this year I tried the reverse diet. I came across, like I said, Colin DeWay's channel, DEWAAY. So if you guys are curious about reverse dieting, he actually knows what he's talking about. I don't. I'm just doing it to myself. But basically the idea is you raise your calories every week a little bit, right? Especially if you've been in bargain basement for a really long time. You can't just jump to 2,000 and not expect to have a major weight gain. And if you're been obese, you don't want a weight gain. Nobody wants a weight gain, but it's harder to accept a weight gain when you've worked so hard to get to this place. I think it's easier for people who do shows and they cut to look good and lean, and then they know they're going to bulk, and so they're going to gain some body fat, and they're okay with that because they kind of like get how that works. But for the average person, you get to your goal weight and then what? Or you don't make it to your goal weight, like because you stall out because you've been too low calorie for so long. So I feel like it's really important to do refeeds throughout your weight loss, which is 48 hours of eating about 500 to 600 calories than what you're doing on your deficit. Give your metabolism like a break. But then if you can take 2 weeks here and there to, 9 months, if you can the longer you can do it, and the higher you can get your calories, the better off your metabolism will be. And then when you go for the next go round, like I did this last year, you will have way easier success. So I did 9 months of eating that high calories, and I got really frustrated because I gained 20 pounds and I felt guilty because I'm on YouTube. I'm supposed to be the one telling people what to do. Yeah. And here's me going, and people are like, wow, she's gaining weight. And it was really uncomfortable because I didn't understand that process. Now that I do, I'm just like, I want to just kick them all. Like, shut up. I was doing the right thing. I just didn't know I was. And then in the summer, I got tired of how I was looking. I started to feel uncomfortable. And so I said, oh, I'm just going to do a cut over the summer. And bam, I lost all that like so fast and then more. And I just did a video on my loose skin that compares me a year later. So you can see I did my loose skin video, and then I did the whole gained 20 pounds and then lost some over the summer. And the change in my actual body is unreal. It's unreal. I've had so many views on that video because I think people are really fascinated by the skin and like what you would do with it. And it's really irritating. Can I just say, I really don't like it, but it is nice to see. And even over the reverse, just in this last 20-week update that I just did on my channel, I put a before and after from the end of my cut this summer and this last weekend, the one you showed. And I have gained no weight, basically. I fluctuate, but I've been about 169 the whole time, all 20 weeks. I've raised my calories from 1,300 to 2,025 per day. That's where I'm at now. And I've gotten smaller. I've also picked up some triceps over here. I lift my chicken bucket, my chicken feed. I got 35 chickens, and I lift my chicken bucket feed because that's the only weights I have around here. And I'm building me some triceps, and I'm looking way slimmer in 20 weeks of reverse dieting, eating more food. But I will say I did have to add carbs back in for this reverse diet because fats just really play with my brain. I can drink a whole entire thing of heavy cream and I cannot stop, but I could eat 11 Doritos and be like, whatevs. Yeah. It's the weirdest thing. So
yeah, no, well,
people are kind of frustrated with me for that.
I have noticed. Oh, we gotta talk about you getting kicked out of some Facebook groups or something. Some people are asking.
Do we have to talk about that?
Because I know a little.
I don't want to give them any credit whatsoever for my weight loss.
We don't have to mention them, but we can just talk about what happened. Okay. But what I have noticed once in a while, we'll go out to a fancy dinner and we'll have carbs. It'll be like a planned off day, usually like maybe 3 times a year. And there's this phenomenon I've picked up on where when you are eating like more of a, not even standard American, but you're eating a low fat, high carb diet, which is what I did before I started keto. So like maybe 5 years ago. Then you have a high fat meal. It's really filling. It's overly filling. And when you do keto for a really long period of time, and then you have carbs, you have maybe even 100 grams of carbs, like a sweet potato or something, that's really filling. So there's sort of a give and a take. But then if you have the carbs every day, they become less filling, I think.
Yeah. And you have to be really careful. So if you're going to be like me, and you have to be real scientific, I keep track of everything in my little notebook. I'm super obsessed. Even Colin has told me I'm a little bit too much. He's like, you need to rein out let go of the control. He's like, you need to learn how to just eat and like stop being so obsessed over the calories. But for me this year, I just really want that data so that in the future I can just do that. I can go on a cut and then I know where I want to hit back and where I can get to safely for my weight and have a general idea of how to do that. And I feel like the best way to do it is to be really scientific about it. And maybe it's just the school teacher in me. I don't know, but
no, it's admirable because you really learn a lot when you do that for a long period of time. Cause that's something I am not great at. Like I want to do things and then I'll do it for a week and then I'll like change. I want to do something different. So you don't really get good data on what's working and what's not working. Where if you can consistently do stuff for long periods of time and you're tracking it, you have over the course of, a few years, you have a pretty good idea of what works for you and what doesn't. But let's talk about what happened with this Facebook group. Tell me about it.
Well, they're the ones who taught me everything. It's a Finney and Volek founded type group. It's a Keto Gains type group. And they have all the information. They taught me how to do it. I went down the rabbit hole. I learned everything. I became obsessed. I started teaching people on the group. And so they asked me to be a moderator on the group. But behind the scenes, things weren't so nice. They were constantly making fun of people behind their backs and like, I just didn't feel. Maybe it's because I'm a Christian.
Was it in the moderator's chat?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. So we had a Facebook group once. Not something I don't use Facebook groups personally. I don't really use Facebook at all. But I know for like just getting the message out there, they're important. And the Facebook group became hard to just monitor and moderate with just me and Mega doing it. So we got a group of just the really active people in the Facebook group to help moderate. And it very quickly devolves into like, we have the power. The people in the group are the idiots. Let's just like ban them if they disagree with us. It's so weird how it happens so quick.
Yeah. And I will say my Facebook group has a moderator chat and we rarely use it. My group is just really good. We don't have a lot of crazies in there. I don't know. Like we just don't do that, but maybe it's because I'm leading it and I just don't do that. But I would question them on things and they didn't like it. They didn't like me. They felt like I didn't fit. And I don't know why. I honestly don't. And maybe it's because my YouTube channel was getting popular and people were starting to look to me as an authority and they didn't like that. I don't really know. But I'll tell you this. They told me to go dairy-free to kick a weight loss stall, I guess, that I was having. They were my mentors. They told me what to do. I did it, right? But I wasn't prepared. And so I made this like coconut oil fat bomb thing and put it in my video and like showed that I ate it. And they fired me and they used that as the excuse because they are anti-fat bombs on that group, which makes me roll my eyes so hard because fat bombs have their place. And in that instance, I needed to have my fats be a certain level. They're the ones who teach that. And so it's just like, but they used it as an excuse. And of course I overreacted and cried and did a whole video about how they fired me. So silly. But
here's my whole thing. Like,
it broke me, you know?
It did it?
Like,
it was tough?
Oh, because what do? I have no authority anymore. Like my entire YouTube channel was based on what they taught me. And I sent them to the groups as the authority. So I had to really quickly decide, am I just going to quit? Am I just moving on? You know, what am I doing? And over and above, everybody just kept saying, you know what you're talking about. You can do this still. And I prayed about it. And God was like, dude, this is your thing. Like, don't let it go. And I was like, okay. So what did I do? I bought Finney and Volek's book and I studied it, and I went to their website and I read every blog post and I looked at all of the research, even though I didn't understand 90% of it. And I started watching other YouTubers that taught awesome stuff. And I just kept on making the videos. Yeah. And then I started my own Facebook group, Keto Chaos. So there you go.
Yeah, my whole thing is, what if you're wrong? Like, when you start just banning people who disagree with you, you're completely shutting out the possibility of learning something new and the possibility that you're wrong about something.
Right. It was a huge echo chamber because their reason behind that was because they're trying to teach a certain thing. And then there's like 90,000. At the time, there was 97,000 people on that group. There's probably way more now. It's huge. And so they were trying to keep a lot of people from putting misinformation. So I get why they did things the way they did it. But I think it was totally fine for me to say that because I chose to eat less dairy, and I don't know how else to get fat in because I've always gotten it from dairy, that I can have coconut oil mixed with cocoa. I mean, it wasn't even anything. I'm rolling my eyes now thinking about how much of a big deal it was. I had that one of the moderators told me that they're like, cousin or niece or somebody watched it and called her in tears because she was like, she ate a fat bomb on there. And I thought we weren't supposed to eat fat bombs. And I'm like, are you serious right now?
So it's one thing if you post the fat bomb recipe or whatever to the group, but if they're like stalking your videos, that's a whole nother thing.
Well, but they were using my videos in the group. So granted, I asked for permission to start my YouTube channel for the group. So it was kind of a tricky situation, but it came down to the fact that people wanted to listen to me and they didn't want to listen to the people who were being mean. So
it's interesting having done this for so long. I mean, not even that long. It's only been like 4.5 years, I think now, but because it's become so popular now. And it used to be when we first started, it was like everyone was on the same team. Anyone making keto videos we were friends with. And it's tough for me sometimes when I see someone doing a channel that like it's like kind of like gimmicky or like commercialized, and I'm like, they're not doing it right. That I wouldn't do that. But it's not good. You don't want to have these negative thoughts. You should just always have positive thoughts, and it's like a muscle that you have to work on. But when you see someone doing something you hate, if they're promoting somewhat of the same message to you, you should just be happy for them. Because when we were starting our channel, I was like always on Reddit, the keto subreddit.
Oh, yeah, I was never on Reddit.
Yeah, I would like share my videos. I would like, look at this, I just did a meal prep video, as just like some random guy. And then as I got more, and then as our videos became popular, it was like frowned upon on Reddit. It was like commercial content at that point, so it was like you can't really share it anymore. And I don't know, it's tough, but yeah, it's interesting to be along for the ride and see how it fully has progressed. And now you have like
YouTube is just a whole other animal, and it's just going to change and grow. And we have to be flexible, with our, like you said, what I understood in the beginning, I was very hard-nosed about it because it worked for me. And I used to say all the time, I would never eat a carbohydrate again. And now I'm following this other Facebook group who I'm also moderating on, which the moderator team is phenomenal. They are the best humans I've ever known. It's called PPDK, Protein Prioritized Dirty Keto. So if you guys want a big, huge group to go on, they're awesome. The main person in there, Brian Hanna, is literally salt of the earth, amazing guy. Like such a great group. And so I get a lot of my information from them, and they are the ones who are like, girl, why are you still not eating carbohydrate? And I was like, I cannot do that. No, I cannot. That shall never happen. And they're like, no, you literally can. And you should. And these are the reasons, because I had lost my cycle. I was really struggling with electrolytes. I was taking in so much sodium, like 18,000 milligrams, and still feeling tired and still feeling, I just couldn't feel right. And my weight would go way up and then drop and way up and then drop. It wouldn't stabilize. And they just basically said, you need to try this and just see if it works. And I said, okay, I'm willing to do it. It's an experiment. But I'll tell you what, that first bite of potato, I literally thought I was going to throw up with the anxiety. I was so afraid that I would take one bite of a carbohydrate and I'd be back to 400 pounds and I would be a carb addict and I couldn't stop. No, you know what? I took that first bite and I was like underwhelmed. I was like, this is potato. Well, it tastes like glue. Still, I plan my carbs out and I just don't get anything out of it. Like, it doesn't, because you kill that connection when you work on your Atreyu moment, right? You kill that connection to food that makes you feel better. You don't need to overeat because there's no reason to. Like, you just don't think to anymore. It's not your go-to when you're stressed out. My go-to when I'm stressed out, I take a nice long bubble bath, or I lay back in my bed and it just relax, or I read a book that distracts me. I just don't even think to use food anymore. It doesn't even connect in my brain. And so the freedom of being able to eat a carbohydrate and not feel controlled by it was phenomenal. Like, it's the best thing that ever happened to me. And you know what happened? My weight went all of a sudden. I had been up 9 pounds in 5 weeks on the reverse diet, eating barely 1,500 calories and freaking out. And Colin was like, it's fine, girl. Calm down. Everything's fine. Just keep going. Just keep going. And he kept me stable. And then I added the carbs in and immediately my weight just went, and it's been almost just right there. And my energy hasn't gone up as much as I was hoping. I'm still struggling with tiredness. I still have to take in extra sodium. I thought that it would really cut back that, and it has, but I still feel like maybe there's something weird with myself that I just need more. I remember eating salt when I was a kid, like out of ice. Like, I would put salt on ice and eat it. So I'm starting to think maybe I have some sort of like adrenal thing, or who knows, but I have to take in more, but not that huge amount. I've just been happier, and it gives me more flexibility with my calories. I'm up to about 100 grams of net carb a day. So it's still well within Dr. Westman's phase 3. But as I did complain about Dr. Westman's phase 3, because he basically said that only athletic people and people who'd never been overweight or obese could be ever phase 3. And I'm like, no, that's too limiting. It's too limiting. It basically means you can't be cured. And I think that's bull crap. Obviously, I'm proof of that. I have a whole video about how I cured my stress eating. You should go watch that.
Yeah, check out her channel, guys. She has, I'll pull it up here, Keto in the Chaos. Tons of videos. You do a lot of live streams too, right?
Yeah, I usually live stream every Tuesday, which is why I picked today for ours.
Yeah. She has a ton of good videos on there. Definitely check her out. And then I wanted to talk briefly, because we haven't really talked much about like the actual what you eat, just practical day-to-day type of stuff. So, and then in chat, guys, if you guys have questions, start commenting with questions. We'll get to those soon. But yeah, just like day-to-day, what's your routines? Like, people always have questions about like intermittent fasting. Do you do that? How many meals? And just like generally the foods you eat.
Okay, yeah, I did start out with intermittent fasting about 4 weeks in, when I got to be fat adapted. I did 3 meals a day in the very beginning. I do 4 now that I'm in the reverse. So it depends on what your goals are. I found that because I was used to overeating, that having 2 big meals was much more satiating to me than having several meals. And also stimulating muscle protein synthesis by having 30 grams of protein per meal was kind of a big deal to me as well. It always has been. And so my goal always, even now at 4 meals a day, is always minimum 30 grams of protein. So what I do is I start with my protein. It's super easy. You divide it into 2 or 3 meals, whatever you're going to have for the day. And then you take your protein and you track it in your app. I use Chronometer, and you put your protein in there, make sure your protein lines up, and then you fill it in with carbs and fats, however you so desire to meet your calories or your macro level. I'm always about simple. So I definitely know about Keto Connect, because if I'm ever looking for a recipe, you guys are like phenomenal. I've never seen anybody cook so well. I am not a good cook. I've made some of your stuff and it's just stressful to me. But if I'm looking for something special, I will definitely go to Keto Connect and look for the recipe, because brilliance. And I'm going to make a mug cake, because you said on your video that mug cakes are like really, really important. And I'm like, you know what? I could totally put that in my I could do that. I need to do that, but I
Yeah,
haven't
mug
done it
cakes
yet.
are the best. The main thing is because a lot of times with desserts, you just want something quick, and you usually just reach for like the quick thing that's in what like you start lowering your standards. And that's actually a funny
Yeah.
thing. I read on Reddit. It was like a shower thought. They have these just shower thought subreddits. You think of interesting things in the shower. And it's like we keep going back to the pantry and the fridge, not to hope we find something new. It's to hope that our standards are low enough to eat what we found there the first time, which I found to be totally true. But yeah, the mug
Well, and
cakes.
that's true, and that's why I always tell people, especially if they hate tracking, to figure out your macros per meal, figure out 6 or 7 meals that will meet those macros and write them down and have the stuff for those things always on hand. That way you're like, oh, tonight I'm in the mood for, zucchini Alfredo, and I have zucchini in the fridge always, and I have chicken in the freezer always, and I have cheese always, and I have Alfredo sauce always. And so it's easy for me to go, hey, I feel like having this because I know I always have those main staples. So my main staples, I always have zucchini, bell pepper, and broccoli, like my cabbage, my favorite veggies that I don't eat a lot of veg, but I do eat some. And I have my favorite sauces: Lucini marinara, Bertolli Alfredo sauce. Those are my go-to sauces. There's probably plenty more. There's definitely G Hughes barbecue sauce if you're more a barbecue person. I always have chicken breast on hand. I try to have sirloin steak on hand. I try to have 90-10 ground beef on hand all the time, 85-15 if I can't find 90-10. Cheeses of all kinds. I just try and keep sliced cheeses in the pre-sliced cheese in the fridge so that I can easily access that. And I don't really do anything without putting it in my tracker unless I know for sure it's going to meet my macros. So while I was losing weight, I basically ate the same things. And I had a video even about it because people are like, you eat the same stinking thing every day. And I'm like, you're right. Because you know why? It works and it's easy. I don't have to think about it. So in the morning, I would have bacon, eggs, 0% fat Greek yogurt with Mio water enhancer in it, and some cheese every single day for my first meal. And my second meal was almost always chicken, a veggie, and sauce.
Yeah.
And that's how I lost weight because it was simple. It was easy. The more simple it is, the more likely you're going to follow through and keep going. And if you get bored, well, then find a new sauce. Try pork.
I'm big on the routines. For me, it's like until we get to dinner, my day is basically the same. Maybe there's like a few options, like 3 different options I'll have for lunch. But the only real question mark is dinner. We've been getting more creative with dinners lately. Mega's been doing meal planning lives on Sundays where we just like plan creative dinners because it is
She's
nice.
the best.
Yeah, for a couple of years we were just like doing basics like steak, broccoli, butter, stuff like that. And it is, I guess we have a kid now, so that's part of it too. But creating, or at least having something creative a few nights a week for dinner is always fun. But where do you fall on like I guess a lot of like keto desserts and like artificial sweetener, sugar alcohols? How like strict are you with these things?
I'm all about the sugar alcohols. Give them all to me.
Okay.
Oh, I don't have it anymore. I'm like, I just drank a Bang before we got on here. And like, I use Mio. Sucralose is my favorite. My stance is this. If you have sweets cravings and at the beginning, it's really hard to get rid of them. I am all about get rid of them. So for 8 months, I did nothing but stevia and aspartame. And I lost 100 pounds doing that. And I severed the sweet tie. When I went back to having more sweet things, it didn't cause me cravings or cause me to want to overeat. And so you have to go by how you feel. If you're taking in some sugar-free Jell-O, which is like my go-to for filling up my stomach, it's basically a free food. It's like 5 calories per thing. And you need 3 things will fill you up to the point you can't even think. You're so full. There's sucralose in the Winky brand ones. There's aspartame in the Jell-O brand ones. I'm not sure what's in the other.
I need to get those. I used to always get those back when we first started. I haven't had those in like 3 years probably now. The pre-made
I eat
cups.
them a lot just because they're the cups, but I buy the ones, the Winky brand is my favorite. They should just hire me because I literally eat them 3 times a day. Like I have them with every meal practically.
Yeah.
And they're like $3 for a huge pack of 12. Like so cheap.
Yeah.
But I don't eat them for any nutritional purpose. People are like, are you eating it for the collagen? No, I'm literally just eating it to fill up my stomach.
Yeah.
Because I am still an overeater. I still want to eat more food. And I just embraced that. And I found a food I can eat anyway. So if that causes you to crave, reevaluate it. But yeah, I'm all about the sweeteners. Please give them all to me. I'm a Built Bar advocate. I eat them every day.
Yeah. Yeah. I definitely mix around a lot of that stuff too. I go in phases where I like find something I really like. Quest cookies, it's been lately. Although I gave
love
those
those.
up. I gave those up for the new year. I've had two. I haven't told you guys, but I have had two so far this new year. But
You didn't make it very far, man. Come on.
no. I wanted to, just because we've been here for an hour already,
Oh
winding
man.
down a little bit.
Okay.
You have 9 children,
I do.
which I
My
did
oldest
not
will
know.
be 25 next month, and my youngest is 5. He's a kindergartner this year, and I homeschool the 4 youngest right now.
So how did you make the decision to homeschool? What was the deal there?
I really liked my oldest son a lot. I was like kind of in love with him. Didn't really want anybody else putting thoughts in his head. As it so happens, he has a lot of thoughts on his own, and he's kind of way out there in Politico land.
Uh-huh.
He's way smarter than me. Let's just put it that way. I knew by the time he was 9 that homeschooling him probably wasn't going to go that well because I was not smarter than he was. But he survived it. He's very anti-institution.
Okay. So yeah, I get that for sure. So it's like a give take thing for me because I went to public school, so I think that's a good idea, mainly for like the social aspect and just being thrown in there. And like I couldn't talk to people at all. Luckily, the only thing that did it for me was I was good at basketball, so like people liked me because of that. But if I sucked at basketball and I had to just like make friends through communication, it would have been real tough for me. So I like
sure. My 22-year-old's that way, and he found his passion and friend group and ability to get out of his shell through musical theater. And at the school he went to like a charter school. My oldest one as well, same thing. And they were very popular. And my younger one was more popular than the older one. And that was kind of a problem because he came in and got the lead in the show and he'd never sung a day in his life. I don't know where he got that from. I don't know. But yeah, all my kids are artists. And so that's another reason I really wanted to do more of a free form. I'm not quite an unschooler. I'm somewhere in the middle, but I kind of give them 90% of the day to do whatever they want. And then we have a short bit of really intense, like math, language arts, get the basics out of the way. So like even for like right now, they're probably downstairs. Like my one daughter, she does piano, that she learns it from YouTube all by herself. My other daughter paints. My one daughter has a YouTube channel. She makes videos, like my 18-year-old son, he's turning 19 in May, is a music producer and he does that all on his own. Like I haven't really like limited their art at all. And then I just try and give them the basics of what they need. Ironically, my adopted daughter is the only one who has been interested in college. She is in her, I think, 2nd year. I don't even know anymore. I don't know. She's in college. I don't pay attention.
What is because I'm sure you have to go to some length to socialize them. That's like the big fear I have with homeschooling. What's the deal there?
When they were really young, we just had a parenting group with other like-minded families, and we just let the kids kind of play with each other. As they get older, all of my kids, because we want their physical education to be really strong. My oldest one, he wanted to try ballet when he was 3, and that kind of just sent us down the dance rabbit hole. And I literally am a freaking crazy dance mom. All my girls dance and competitively, and we spend 4 hours a day at the dance studio. COVID has been a problem, but because dance is so important, they continue to have class, and we just have to wear masks and get our temperatures taken, and the moms have to sit outside and socialize through the freezing cold windows. But dance has been our main motivator. But when like my oldest was young, I sought out groups for him, and we made friends but he's still different because he's a different person.
Yeah, I think you want to be different. And when you go to public schools, they make you all the same, which is
sometimes to a degree. Yeah. I mean, to a degree.
And then you get,
if you don't fit the mold, there's punishments or rewards. So like if you don't fit the mold in the public school way where you're really, really smart, you get special rewards. If you're having struggles in areas that other people don't, you get pushed into the remedials. Whereas home, like my 10-year-old daughter,
your sound just kind of changed on me there a little.
Are you there still?
Yeah, there it is.
All right. So yeah, my 10-year-old daughter just barely learned to read like last spring. But she has a YouTube channel that she edits herself, and she sings and she does art and she does dance, and she's fantastic at all of those things. But if she had been in public school and struggled with reading and felt like she couldn't keep up with everybody else, she would have been in remedial class and would have felt like a second class citizen. Whereas at our house, we focus on strengths. She's really good at math. And so we just focused on that for a while. And now that she's reading, she's jumping like light years really quickly. Like she's reading the books that I'm reading. We're reading Lost Keeper series, or the Lost Keeper of Lost Cities. I'm on book 4 and she's on book 1, and she's just going right. I mean, they were talking books like this. Like she went from can't read an A to that. And I just be patient. I try and teach her, and if she doesn't get it, we just be patient. It's just like with weight loss. You just got to be patient. You know, don't beat yourself up.
Yeah, I guess what were your considerations? Did you consider private school at all? That's another thought I have too.
For sure, but we have no money. Like we're super poor. Like, you know, I'm studying finances, like, and I'm trying to figure out how to keep $1,000 in the bank. So there you go.
Yeah.
I'm like, if my husband loses his job, we're screwed.
Yeah, because I'm just thinking mostly about my experience, and I should probably try, you know, widening my scope a little. But like, I just went to college to do computers because I thought computers were where the money's at, and it's like I didn't like computers. And then when you get to college, you're some guy who's doing computers for the money, and there's people there that like the computers are their life. So it's like,
yes, my son, my oldest son, his computer is his life.
Yeah, you're better off going into something that you want to be your life. And for most of the time, it seems like college is not super essential unless it's like, you know, you want to be a doctor, lawyer, or something that you need some kind of credentials for.
Yeah, well, I found photography when I was about your age, actually. I was about 32 when I started into photography, and that was my main source of income to help with the family. And I still am a photographer. I do dance studios only. So the spring is my busy time. I do a couple of studios and make about $10,000, and that's it for the year. I don't really take on any other clients unless friends beg me, because I do YouTube now, and I want YouTube to be my next focus. And now I've seen the opportunity of being able to earn money from YouTube. I would like to grow the channel as much as I can. So thank you, because you're now helping me with that focus, which is my goal for this year.
Yeah.
My New Year's resolution to be more financially independent, and maybe even save enough for skin surgery, which would be fun.
Yeah. Yeah. So really. I guess just winding down. It's not fun. No. Yeah, we've gone an hour 15 minutes, so we should wind down here.
I'm sorry, I talk a lot.
No. This is great. So people looking to find you, obviously you got the YouTube channel,
Instagram, everywhere it's Keto Chaos. Instagram, Facebook. I do not have a TikTok. Sorry guys, and YouTube. It's all Keto Chaos.
Okay. And
chaos is from having 9 kids. That's where the name came from. Is because like I literally have to go, like, this is my room. I have to shut the door, lock the door, tell my husband's here even, so that he keeps them quiet while we're doing this, because normally they're not quiet. They're very loud, like me.
How often do you publish videos?
3 to 4 times a week usually. So I have my check-ins on Sunday, weigh-ins, and then I do everything I ate in the week and do a live chat. And then every once in a while I'll throw something in just for fun.
Oh, you read the End Your Carb Confusion book? How'd you like that?
It was pretty good, other than my main complaint that he didn't allow for people to get cured from obesity and be phase 3. I think that's just dumb. Okay. Someday I'll get to tell him that whenever I get to go to North Carolina after COVID.
Yeah. All right.
But I love everything else about his book. It's good.
Yeah. All right. Well, thanks so much for joining us. You guys definitely check out her channel, Keto in the Chaos, growing fast. It's more like personal, which is, I like those channels. That's what originally attracted me to YouTube. People just sharing their lives. That's what our channel was kind of at the start. It's evolved a little bit more differently now, but everything's so like high production now. I love like channels like yours where it's just, I'm talking
Well, we
to
have
my phone.
A family vlog too, if you really want to see what it's like to have 9 kids.
Yeah, what's the family vlog?
It's called Hide
channel?
and Seek. It's HYDE, Hide and Seek. And yeah, I show it all. Like, I don't put makeup on, and my house is a giant mess. Just be warned in advance.
Awesome. Okay.